Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Ham Radio Crash Course. We got a bit of news. Hopefully, if you've been monitoring your inbox, your email, you got a letter from the ARRL talking about some interesting things they're doing in the space of amateur radio legislation. And I've got a special guest to talk all about it, actually making his first appearance on the Ham Radio Crash Course. I have David Minster, NA2AA, the ARRL CEO. How are you doing, David?
Only the first time I've been on. We've spent so much time together,
Yes,
but
yes.
finally on the net together.
Yeah, and so I don't think you need an introduction, but maybe give a quick little synopsis for people what you're all about, both amateur radio and ARRL related, and then we'll talk about the exciting news.
Sure. Well, just a bit of background. I've been licensed since the mid 1970s as a high school student. So I've been a lifelong ham, been a lifelong ARRL member, although I'm not a life member. But I'm someone who is one of those guys that renews every year, and have been since I was in high school. The parts of ham radio that really jazz me, frankly, are the parts that bring me and my friends together to do things like, I always loved field day. In fact, I think back in the somewhere around 1987 or 1988, we won our category in field day. I know it's not a contest, but we went
Right,
up
right.
on
Can't
top.
forget that.
Yeah, you can't forget that. But we went up on I went with a group of my contest friends up on top of a mountain just outside of New York City, and we won field day there. But I routinely go down to Bonaire a couple times a year and operate as PJ4G. My friend Noah, who I met years ago in Tuxedo Park at K2GL. We used to work the big contests from up there. He's built an absolutely beautiful station, again on a mountaintop in Bonaire. And I guess 2 years ago now, I bought the remnants of a remote station, a commercial remote station that had been set up there, and many of the parts had been sold off.
Mhm.
But now one of the other staff members at ARRL, Bob Inderbitz and NQ1R, and I have been building up this station. So on this next trip down, the station will, assuming everything arrived okay, will grow to a second flex and a PGXL amplifier, and it's already got 11 antennas going into a 2x12 switch and all of that. So remote radio has sort of become my latest thing. In terms of ARRL, I've been the CEO now for 5 years.
Wow. Yeah, I
And
remember when you came on board, so congratulations on 5 years.
yeah, no, it's dog years.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay, right.
you know, yeah, it's, working with a membership association, and you YouTubers know better than anybody what the internet can be like
Yeah.
with feedback. So they're dog years, but we have a great team at headquarters, and you know, I never knew, as sort of just an everyday ham, just an ARRL member, all the things that ARRL does. And what we're going to be talking about tonight is really what ARRL is all about. When people say, what's ARRL done for me lately? What's it worth? Why should I be a member? This is exactly why someone should be an ARRL member, is what we're going to be talking about this evening.
Yeah, that's a fantastic segue. So obviously we have a couple of bills, and yes, of course, the information is all online. In fact, there's a link in the video description if you all want to get a jump start on all this. I promise it's very straightforward. But there are two bills linked, right? So we've got the U.S. House H.R. 1094 and the U.S. Senate S 459. And
59.
yeah, so maybe give people a brief synopsis of what these are, what we're attempting to do here, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of a background in terms of how we got to where we are. ARRL for more than a decade now has been working to try to get some kind of legislative relief for U.S. hams with regards to restricted neighborhoods, where principally you're talking about HOAs, but there are other it's not exclusive to HOAs, but sort of far and away the majority are based in an HOA. Back in, I want to say 1996 or so, as a part of the Telecommunications Act, the FCC came out with some regulatory language around over-the-air antennas, and that essentially, if you lived in a restricted area, there could be no regulations put in place that would prevent or preclude you from putting up some kind of an antenna to receive commercial video, meaning over-the-air television, a satellite dish of less than 1 meter in size. And one of the groups that was precluded from that language was amateur radio.
Yeah.
And so since then, not enjoying that kind of regulatory protection for amateur radio antennas, ARRL has been working, to try to get those protections put into place. Some years ago, and this is well before I was CEO, ARRL pursued something called the Amateur Radio Parity Act. And a tremendous amount of effort went into this. There was a grassroots movement. There was an awful lot of work that was done. And the bottom line was, depending on who you talk to, we were at the 5-yard line, the 5-inch line, or we were on the goal line, right?
Yeah.
But there was some regulatory pushback, and I think that caused the board and certain members in the community to take a hard look at the bill and say, is this a hill that we're ready to die on? And the bill just wasn't strong enough. And so the question was, is a bad bill better than no bill? And after much debate, the decision was, and it was not a popular decision, but again, we're in a world where the world, or at least in our country, is divided 50-50, right?
Yeah.
There was significant unhappiness that we decided to pull back on that. And once we had done that, considerable work went into sort of reinitiating discussions with the membership. There were some videos, maybe they're still online, with some of our board members speaking at Dayton to members, requesting they come in the booth to get their feedback on what their concerns were and their specific circumstances. And in any event, what it's led us to is an effort over the past sort of 3 years or so, where we've engaged now not just one, but 2 lobbyists. So this is a very expensive effort.
Yeah.
Right. But you're operating in a place where you need a lobbyist on each side of the aisle. And frankly, we're lucky that we've been able to retain really solid representation with both the lobbyists that we work with. One lobbyist we've been working with, I think, since before ARPA. Really, really great guy. And so in any event, 2 years ago, the pretty much the year was spent working to try to get language approved for the bills through Legislative Council. And in Washington, if you want to try to get some kind of a bill introduced, they don't let you just scribble something on a piece of paper and walk onto the floor. You know what I'm saying?
There'd be too many of them otherwise, right? They never end.
Right. And some of this stuff would be pure nonsense.
Yes.
But so Legislative Council is an important partner in sort of the path to getting a bill moving forward. And they take a look at all of the language and the legalese and all the rest of that. And 2 years ago, that took the bulk of the year. So those 2 bills didn't get introduced until towards the end of the year, and it really didn't leave us enough time to try to get the bills passed. Again, there was some criticism. You guys waited too late. It's not about waiting too late. It was a tremendous amount of work And I will tell you that the work that has been done has been led by and principally managed by Director John Robert Stratton, N5A US, out of the West Gulf Division. And so John went back a year ago and worked to get the bills reintroduced. And now once you've got the bills, you've got sponsors, you've got your lobbyists dialed in. Now you're building the messaging and you're starting to build the relationships. You can't build those things in 5 minutes.
Right.
And this isn't like trying to get an infrastructure bill or a military bill passed. You're looking to build support, and you're looking to find a place where you've got an opportunity to pass the legislation. So John spent last year working with his committee on trying to make that happen. It didn't happen, but so we went into this year, and it's kind of miraculous how quick things worked.
Mm-hmm.
We had the new administration sworn in the third week in January. And I think it was the end of the first week in February. We had the bills, we had the sponsors that they were numbered, that were all ready to go. And they were moved into the requisite committees within the House and Senate for those bills to be considered.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've been spending the bulk of this year working with the sponsors and co-sponsors. The lobbyists have been speaking with a lot of the representatives on the Hill and their staffs to try to build, some kind of a groundswell of support so that we can try to get the bill landed somewhere so that it can be voted on and approved. Going in and talking to these folks on the Hill, we don't need to sell amateur radio. One of our lobbyists, John and I were down in Washington 4 weeks ago meeting with the lobbyists, and one of the lobbyists said, I went in to talk to one of the congressional offices, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, ham radio, those are the guys in the white hats."
Okay.
Like they understand the work that hams do with regards to emergency communications. They understand that it's a responsibility. It's a requirement within Part 97. So they get all that, but the message that they don't have is they don't have that this is a big deal for their constituents. And so while we're working on trying to get as many eyeballs as we can on the issues, now that we've got their attention, we have to move very quickly to make sure that they know that their constituents are concerned about this. And that they want to see some action. So the process this time is a little bit different than ARPA, right? So we had the opportunity to learn from ARPA, and so John worked with a team down in Texas to build this website, and essentially the website handles everything for the radio amateur.
Okay.
You do not need to be an ARRL member. All you need to do is you need to be a licensed ham with a call sign. And the way that the system works is that it's very complicated. You go and you put your call sign in, and all the fields populate, and you hit a red button. I think it says "send my letters."
Yeah,
right.
We could try it right now. I've just got it right here. Right.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So you're saying I can just type in my call sign, right? And
right.
We'll do that. We'll do that live. Let's see. And it even pulled in my P.O. box. So I'm assuming P.O. boxes are good there.
It's not a problem.
Not a problem. So if I hit, it even calls out my district, California.
Yep.
And our senators here and representatives.
Yep.
So if I hit send my letters, let's see what it does. And there we go. So I get it, right? You got to write letters, you got to make phone calls, but what's the real value behind this now that I've done it? So I'm joining all the other hams that are clicking on this tool and they're typing in their call sign. You have the relationships with the lobbyists and the representatives, the senators. They know amateur radio, which is good. They've got a good opinion of us. What is the letters? How will this help?
So the way that this approach differs from what was done before is that these letters are going to be printed by the lobbyists on demand when they've got appointments set up
Okay.
on the Hill. So, say for example, one of the senators here in Connecticut that we've been trying to get some time with, but he's if you see, he's all over the news. So this is a guy that is just incredibly busy, Senator Murphy. But say that they get Senator Murphy to call up the lobbyist and say, hey, look, he's got time tomorrow morning at 8:30. You got 15 minutes, come in, you and that's it.
Be
You're
ready.
in
You
for
gotta
15
go.
minutes and get out.
Yeah.
Right. What the lobbyists will do is they'll go into the system and they'll generate all of the letters for Senator Murphy.
Hmm.
They'll print out, they'll have digital signatures. And now it's kind of like it's kind of like college. You remember the being in college where some professors used to say that they would take your reports and throw them up the steps, and the thicker and heavier they were, the higher the grade was.
Okay. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is kind of the same thing, which is you want to be able to go into a congressional office and say, you see this stack of letters, this is coming from your constituents, and this is important. And if they want to be able to reach out to someone, all of your contact information is on there.
Hmm.
They can reach out to someone who's written a letter and say, hey, Josh, hey, David, Senator Murphy's received your letter. Just wanted to let you know that this bill, S459 resonates with the senator, and he's going to support this. Thanks for sending your letter.
That's
Now,
fantastic. Yeah.
you may not hear back, but you may hear back.
Hmm.
But the important thing is if you send an email to a congressional office, you have no idea whether anybody's going to be able to read it, right? These guys get inundated with emails.
Right.
If you send a personal letter into Congress, what happens is if these guys have mail centers, the House and the Senate each has a mail center that's sort of offsite. They've got security procedures and everything that they put the mail through.
Hmm.
Who knows when these guys are going to get the letters. This is an opportunity for our lobbyists as they meet these folks to be able to give them the stack of correspondence, and it's really impactful. You know, I am told that back when we did ARPA, that we had somewhere between 30 and 40,000 letters
Hmm.
that were generated.
Okay.
In the first 24 hours of this system being live, over 27,000 letters were generated
Fantastic. That's
in a
amazing.
day. Well, what it says to you is that as we as a society continue to go through this digital transformation, it's frictionless.
Hmm.
It's effortless.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the back end. There's someone else that's doing that.
Hmm.
And so, I was joking before about, how complex and difficult that procedure is, but you had a chance to see it. You're putting your call sign, you confirm the information, you hit the button, and you're in the game.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
this
that
is the ammunition, if you will, for the lobbyists. I mean, any people can pay for lobbyists. People with money, if they want to kind of push a narrative or whatever, they can get a lobbyist to do this. But this allows you to say, no, this is backed by people that truly care about this and they want their voices heard. So through the ARRL, which our membership dues go towards the lobbyists, towards working with the bills, building them correctly, getting them in front of the right people. Now it's also the members saying, not only am I a member, but here I'm reiterating that you, dear representative and senator, this is my voice pitching out or speaking out to you saying, yes, I want this as well. I want to have, the right to be able to put up an antenna outside my home, right? That's kind of fundamentally what we're talking about here, right?
that's right. And when you start to talk about impact, and sort of the need for the legislation, at the end of 24 hours, the highest number of respondents came from, no big surprise, right? Florida.
Ah.
So there were 2,300 people in the
Mhm.
first 24 hours who had already participated. California, which has its own HOA challenges, I think was in third place at 1,900.
Okay.
So, this is definitely striking a chord with a lot of people. But as I said before, this is what ARRL does. And I think that there are people that are frustrated because they think, for example, when there's an FCC, you know, call for response, right? On some rulemaking that they're going to do, or if they're just looking for feedback or whatever, you know, ARRL rarely goes out to members and says, say this.
That's true.
We
Yeah, yeah,
rare
yeah.
we rarely say anything. We take it right up to the deadline because we don't want to give our opponents the opportunity to be able to build a counter argument based on whatever we're going to say.
Okay.
There are going to be people who are going to say, why are you hitting us like a tsunami right now? Why haven't we been doing this all year? It's not the way the process works.
Yeah.
We've been spending the last 3 years getting the legislation fine tuned and getting as much support as we possibly could lined up. And now here's the opportunity for members who are constituents to be able to reach out to their reps and be able to say, this is important to me.
I guess that's got to be really hard. You must struggle with that in your position. That you talk to all the members, they're like, "Why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't you getting out there on the mountaintop screaming this?" And you're like, "Because the people that we're making the bills against are listening. The people who are trying to take our frequencies away are listening. They're waiting for the ARRL to say something so they can turn their arguments to better argue against the position you're taking." Do people understand that? Like, I know you go to, hopefully you don't mind me asking this question. I don't know how much time you have here, but when you're at Hamvention and, you go to all these different events, I'm assuming you get something like that question a lot. And how do you generally respond to that?
Exactly the way that I just responded to it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't find it frustrating. I understand where it comes from. What's more frustrating is when this thing gets painted into some kind of a conspiracy, or there's no transparency, and it's all this. It's like, it's not an issue of transparency. It's an issue of tactics and strategy to be able to have impact for hams.
Yeah.
And there are some folks that don't understand that. But we have a really strong presence in Washington, beyond the lobbyists that we have there. We have an FCC attorney,
Okay.
a gentleman who represents us, who has a long relationship with FCC, and to them, the FCC staff, he's a trusted resource. He's someone that they can reach out to on any kind of matter. I don't mean amateur radio, but just in general, just to say, hey, look, can we get your gut check on
Hmm.
such and such an issue? And he's just an incredibly good guy. And then we have a full-time staffer who lives in Metro Washington, who's involved with the ITU, and he's involved in the international regulations
Yep.
that affect the United States. And he has proven the strength of his relationships and his network in the international community, through the work that he does at the WRCs and some of the subcommittees that he's been asked to either sit on or even chair. So that's really, one of our major strengths is the work that we get done in Washington.
And that's certainly not free, so I don't have a problem telling everybody, if you're curious where your money goes to be a member of the ARRL, it's everything that David has been talking about, because it, we're not going to generally be able to do this on our own. We have to collectively come together, and an organization like the ARRL has been around for over 100 years doing this in many different capacities. And obviously I'm a longtime supporter of the education program, the Teachers Institute, all of that stuff, and that's just like, gets my wallet open in support, just those two things. But then it obviously goes well above that. So I do encourage everybody to take the link if you haven't already. Go do that now. Anything else we need to mention, David? Is there anything? I think I
Well,
looked at my
you're
list.
talking about the money, right?
Yeah.
And I want to speak to this on point. So since I've been CEO and when I came in as CEO, ARRL was just like the rest of the world, sort of frozen in COVID. Only half the staff could be in the building at a time,
I remember
and
those days.
we're trying to do a major systems implementation that just ran right into COVID. And we're trying to get this legislative agenda moved forward.
Hmm.
um, but we've spent just over $1.5 million since
Wow.
I've been CEO on getting to this point. We know how important this is to hams that are in HOAs. We know how hard it can be if you're sitting in your living room with a 7300 on a card table and an Alex loop in the window, that you wish to God you had some kind of an antenna outdoors, so that
Any
uh,
wire, just any wire outside would be better than what I'm doing, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So this is, we know how important this is to folks that are in HOAs. And Rick Roderick, K5UR, who's the president of the ARRL, who's my boss. He and I have sat at places like Hamcation, Hamvention, Huntsville. We have people come up, they've got tears in their eyes
Mm.
because they're so frustrated and they're so upset that they can't enjoy amateur radio. One of the I call it a cop out, but
Mm.
one of the cop outs that exists is there's a certain percentage of the population that says, well, you went into an HOA with your eyes open and you signed a contract and you knew what you were getting into. It's like, you just hear this sort of blah blah blah. It's
Yeah.
like, look, the FCC has made provisions for other service, commercial service in this case, to have antennas. And there really is no good reason why amateur radio operators, especially in fulfillment of their MCOM responsibilities, there's no good reason why they shouldn't be able to enjoy an antenna.
Hmm.
No one expects someone in a townhouse to put up a 200-foot, Roan 65 tower, on the back of their townhouse. That's not what we're talking about here. But there's got to be some kind of a reasonableness, and that's where all of this is leading to.
I will piggyback on what you're saying. HOA in numbers, it has grown astronomically in the last 5 years, the last decade.
Absolutely.
So there are people who've taken jobs in new areas, a lot of younger people, and to be with a realm of sanity with your commute, oftentimes the only option is an HOA.
Yep.
That's just a reality. I know there's a ton of HOAs in Texas. I mean, that might be why this is being spearheaded somewhat, at least from an organizational standpoint, as far as the tool goes from Texas, because that's a real thing. Um, you already mentioned Florida, California. We've got them everywhere. They're growing more than I've seen, and it's only going to keep going. So I agree. Yes, there's no reason that the FCC, there's no reason that we can't have something that, a reasonable amount of space to put up an antenna. I don't see any problem with that. And as hams,
No.
we know how to do things safely and do it in a way that, is not going to be a problem, I feel. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. One other aspect to this that's really important is, next year, we've deemed the year of the club.
Yes.
And so we're building out all kinds of content and all kinds of ways for clubs to become bigger and better, more resilient, and to try to bring some excitement into the things that clubs could be doing,
Hmm.
right? Well, one of the things that's important about this legislation is we're giving clubs the opportunity now to be able to speak as a group.
Hmm.
And so if you go to ARRL.org/HOA, there's going to be resources. There's an FAQ there now. There's buttons that take you to that page so that you can put your call sign in to send the letters. But we're also going to be putting up a link for clubs to be able to download a draft letter, download some instructions, and to be able to have the officers of a club send in
Hmm.
a letter that represents an entire club. And again, we're looking to get the attention of people who are elected to office by saying your constituents are interested in this. So not only are you hearing from me individually, from a club that I belong to.
Yeah.
And so clubs, we have I don't know the exact number. It's somewhere around 2,800 affiliated clubs. There's a lot of unaffiliated clubs. There are Aries groups around the country. All of these folks have the opportunity to dive in here and make some impact. And again, you don't need to be an ARRL member. ARRL does not represent just its members, it represents amateur radio. And this is really a call out to try to get everyone's attention and inspire everyone to just take a step forward, represent the hobby, and let's do something important for our fellow hams.
Well said, David. Well said.
There
Well
you
said.
go.
Yeah, this is very. Thank you very much. I know we had some schedule conflicts myself personally, being on the West Coast, you on the East Coast. So thanks for staying up a little bit later to hop on to mention this
Easy.
important news. I appreciate it. Anything else? I know you talked about the year of the club, so I think we're all excited to hear what that's going to shape up to, because every year ARRL usually has some kind of special event or something. So I can only guess what that might mean. So I'm waiting to hear more about that in the future.
Well, just a little bit of background on that. A couple years ago, we did the Year of the Volunteer.
Uh huh.
And I have to tell you that anyone who belongs to an organization that consists of volunteers is concerned today,
Mm.
because it's not a ham radio thing. It's not a US thing. It's happening globally, but volunteerism is really falling away. And the younger generations, this is not something that necessarily that they grew up with, and that is sort of a primary concern to them. And I'm not saying it's zero. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
I'm not saying yeah.
Yeah, but when we look, for example, at look at section manager, director, and vice director elections. Where is everybody?
Mm.
Where are the people raising their hands? If a section manager retires, are we really saying that there's nobody else in the state that wants to raise their hand and be a section manager? Now, I don't think we've ever reached a dead end, but we're really getting to a point where, you know, you ask yourself the question, who would want to volunteer for a job like this? Well, I can tell you that if you find the volunteer aspect of the job rewarding, this is a great opportunity to be able to serve.
Mm.
And I will tell you that personally, I don't know that Year of the Volunteer was nearly as successful as we hoped it would be. And we're coming at Year of the Club, quite a bit different. We've brought in a lot more outside, I'll call it influence. A good example is we're using content that was created by a club president here in Connecticut at the Meriden Amateur Radio Club. He created a program called Marconi,
Okay.
and Marconi was funded by an ARDC club grant.
Okay. Yeah.
And so then they moved on to Marconi 2, which was a sort of a second level of capability for a club. It included things like, how to get your club a 501c3 certification. and really good information. Now, Ed Snyder, who really is the father of that Marconi program, he's now working on Marconi 3, which is to try to engage people between the ages of 30 and 50, right?
Very
Which is
good.
where,
Yeah, very good spot. Yeah.
which is where my kids are, and my daughter, who's got a little granddaughter and is pregnant with her second. The thought of her and her husband taking time out to be hams right now in their lives is like zero,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
But
I talk about this
but
all the time. Yes. I'm so busy. I'm surprised I can even get in front of the radio, let alone talk to you on a live stream with the kids and everything. It's crazy. Yes.
Exactly, exactly. And so Ed is taking that on because there are aspects to the hobby that you can do and you can enjoy on a very, very part-time basis. For example, you could set up a whisper beacon,
Mhm.
an experiment with antennas at your house, and leave the thing on, and then go and take a look at a global map
Yep.
to see what the impact of your antenna choices are, propagation, where you're being heard, all the rest of that. So in any event, Ed has really been it's sort of a godsend for us, and I will tell you that you're in good company because he too has given very generously to ARRL on the education side. He and his wife Rose they were the original supporters of the collegiate amateur radio program.
Oh, wow.
And he also they also were very generous in their support for clubs.
Talk
So
about
there is a
volunteerism. That's literally a lot of volunteerism there, a lot of support to the community.
Yep. So Ed's been really great. So that's what we're trying to do with the year of the club is we're trying to reach out. We're trying to find best practices. We want to share those best practices. We really want to see clubs revitalized. I can tell you last week I was at there's a club here in Connecticut called CCARS,
Mhm.
which is the Southeastern Connecticut Amateur Radio Society. I will tell you that their club meeting was better run than our board meetings. These guys,
Okay.
they followed Robert's rules to the T. They went all the way down through their agenda perfectly. Everybody in the room was engaged. Everyone was super positive. They were supporting each other. Um, it was a really, really positive experience. And the most positive thing, and this can be for another live stream.
Yes.
But one of the great things that they talked about was that their club had elections, and it was the last meeting for the president of the club who had invited me down. And he gave a little talk about the importance of term limits and the fact that their club has a 3-year term limit.
Mm.
And he talked about the fact that in his 3-year period that their club and another club merged. They applied for 501c3 status.
Mhm.
They applied for an ARDC grant to support some of the. I think it had to do something with their repeater and ham shack building. I could have that wrong, but he said, "Look, it's been 3 years. I'm tired. I'm ready for somebody else to step up and lead. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I want to, I want to be, I want to be an active club member, but it's time for somebody else to serve. And it's actually something that I hear about at almost every convention that I go to. Is I have members come up and say, why doesn't that board have term limits? Why doesn't that board have age limits? Why do these guys go in there and stay for 50 years? You know, it's a great question.
It's
And
totally
it's and
true. You're totally right because you got to get a little break in there to still do the things that you spend so much time setting up and being the leader of. You got to participate. Otherwise, I think you start losing something in there. I don't know what it is, maybe, but I think that's a really good point. At least to give yourself a break. Being a
the,
president of anything is very difficult.
The point that he made, which really struck me hard, was I talked about ARRL in my presentation and talked about this issue of term limits and age limits.
Hmm.
And I said it's very, very difficult to build succession planning. We have people that the only job they want is to be a director so that they can have a vote. They absolutely refuse to be a vice director and sit in the second row and maybe spend 3 years learning how the organization learns. I mean, God forbid, right, that they come in a junior, in their eyes, a junior position. But the thing that the CCAR's president said was, you guys have it backwards. If you put in term limits, it forces you by process to build succession planning. It doesn't become an activity anymore. It just becomes who you are and what you do. Because, like with these college clubs that Bob Inderbitson and Steve Goodgame work with on the collegiate amateur radio program,
Hmm.
these guys graduate in
Yeah.
4 years.
Hard term limits. They're
You're not,
graduating.
you're not negotiating that. You're
Right.
gone.
Right. Right. Yes. I no, that's a really interesting point. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what you guys are what we're cooking up here for the year of the club. So we'll definitely have you back, or anybody you want on here to talk about what that's all going to be. And we'll stay in contact here, because I can't wait to hear more of the numbers. I'm hoping also we're going to hear, we're not going to tip the hat to the folks who may be arguing against us, but we'd love to see kind of how this all comes out, what kind of numbers we get, and how it all plays out with the lobbyists and all the effect there up in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, and how it goes.
The most important thing is,
Yeah.
there's no deadline on this, because there's no deadline to now. People need to do this now. This isn't something you're going to do in a week or two. Do it right now, because these guys are going into these congressional offices tomorrow and next Monday. And it's like, do it now.
I will update the description and add this to the top and just say, do this now. Go. Just do it. And no membership required. Just type in your call sign. That's it, guys. If that was not clear, we're going to reiterate again. No call sign needed. Type in your call sign. It'll do the work for you. That's all there is to it. David, final words, anything you want to mention? Otherwise, we're going to get out of here.
No, all I would say to you is, and you know this because, again, we see each other so often and get to talk, but I really appreciate the work that you and your wife do.
Oh,
You guys are fantastic,
thank you.
and you've developed a very large subscriber base, because you attract people that are outside of the core amateur radio base. You know, I love the fact that you and Not a Rubicon work together.
Oh,
Who, by the
man.
way,
Whoa.
that
Wow.
he,
Okay.
he
Okay.
I got to tell you, he absolutely kills me. I love the sarcasm, right? But you know, but you guys are talking to the GMRS audience. You
Yeah,
guys are
sure.
talking to the preppers. You're talking to Overlander. Well, he is too, right? Not a Rubicon, right? So he's doing the Overlander thing.
Yes.
I just love the fact that you guys have really put no limits on who you're addressing, the content that you're building. And I really appreciate being able to spend a few minutes with you here on your channel at long
Yes.
last.
Welcome, welcome, you're welcome. Yeah, so I look forward to this again. Thanks for taking the time. Say thanks to your wife, who's off camera doing cat monitoring right now. She did a fantastic job. So you also have a wonderful wife that is your partner in all of this stuff you're doing. So big thanks to both of you. Thank you for taking the evening with us here, David. Really do appreciate it. So thanks for being on.
All right, Josh, thanks so much.
All right. Okay. Well, we're gonna break with David here for a second, guys. You heard him, right? Take the link, enter your call sign. That's all there is to it. And it'll just go out for you automatically. That's all you have to do, right? So there's no excuse. We need it right now. We need help, particularly for the folks that are behind enemy lines in an HOA. That's all there is to it. So thanks everybody. I'll be live again on Saturday. Hope you check it out. I'll be posting a live stream after this. Spoiler alert, it's going to be about getting on the air with satellites. We're going to be talking about all kinds of different stuff in there. So make sure you go check it out. I'm Josh, KI6NAZ. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. 73.